in a peaceful valley, where a young ladybug couple is teaching their newly hatched babies how to fly. But the tiny ladybugs keep struggling to stay in the air. One of them suddenly falls to the ground. His name is Cox. Nearby, a fly laughs at him before buzzing away. But Cox doesn't let it bother him. He keeps trying, and little by little, he finally learns how to fly. Soon, the parents gather all of their babies and lead them back home. On the way, though, the same fly shows up again and starts laughing at Cox. This time, Cox chases after it, but the fly calls over its entire swarm. Realizing he's badly outnumbered, Cox quickly turns around and flies away. While trying to escape, Cox gets separated from his family. In his panic, he crashes into a large rock and falls to the ground. One of his wings breaks, and he loses consciousness. The flies land beside him, take one look, and decide he's finished before flying off. The scene then shifts to a human couple arriving in a beautiful valley for a picnic. The woman is pregnant, but during the picnic, she suddenly starts having severe stomach pains. The couple rushes to the hospital, leaving all of their food and supplies behind. That night, Cox finally wakes up. He tries to fly, but with only one working wing, he immediately crashes back to the ground. Frightened and alone, he calls out for his family, but they've already traveled far away. To stay dry from the rain, Cox hides beneath a mushroom, but even there, he's startled by a snail's huge eyes and quickly moves on. After wandering through the valley, he reaches the abandoned picnic site and hides inside a metal tin filled with sugar cubes. The next morning, Cox climbs out of the tin and discovers insects everywhere, carrying away whatever food the humans left behind. Every bug is grabbing whatever it can. Nearby, a colony of black ants is marching home with fruit they collected. Their leader, Mandible, suddenly catches the scent of something incredibly sweet and follows it straight to the picnic site. The moment Cox sees Mandible, he quickly hides back inside the sugar tin. Mandible climbs into the container and takes a tiny bite of one of the sugar cubes. The taste is so unbelievably delicious that she starts dancing with excitement. She immediately calls the rest of her colony over. Forgetting everything else they had collected, the ants decide the sugar is far more valuable. Working together, the ants lift the entire tin and begin carrying it back to their colony, unaware that Cox is still hiding inside. Along the way, the tin hits a rocky ledge and tumbles to the ground. Several sugar cubes spill everywhere, and Cox is thrown out of the box, knocking him unconscious once again. As the ants gather the scattered sugar cubes, they notice Cox lying nearby and try to help him. Just then, a hungry lizard appears. The ants panic and hide behind the sugar cubes, but the lizard spots one of them anyway. Thinking fast, Cox rushes back inside the metal tin and starts making loud noises. The sound echoes through the empty container, creating a deep, terrifying roar. The frightened lizard immediately runs back into its burrow. The ants are amazed by Cox's bravery, and their leader, Mandible, decides to let him travel with the colony. The group continues their journey. Using her antennae, Mandible signals another ant from the colony to guide them along the safest route, and the march resumes. But before they can get very far, a large group of red ants spots them carrying the sugar tin. Their leader, Buter, steps into the path like a crime boss and blocks the road. To avoid a fight, Mandible pulls out a single sugar cube and hands it over. "Here, this is your cut. Now let us pass." Mandible and her ants continue moving forward, but Buter isn't satisfied. He doesn't want just one sugar cube. He wants every single one. Filled with greed, the red ant leader secretly begins following the black ants, waiting for the perfect chance to steal the entire box. Cox spots the red ants closing in and quickly warns their leader, Mandible. Without wasting a second, Mandible tells everyone to move faster. Working together, the black ants cleverly slide the sugar box downhill until they reach a river. Meanwhile, Buter and his red ants jump inside an empty soda can and roll it down the hill at full speed, reaching the river as well. They immediately begin chasing the black ants, using the soda can to ram into their sugar box and knock it off balance. During the chaos, Cox falls into the water. A group of hungry pickerel fish quickly surrounds him, ready to make him their next meal. Just in time, Mandible reacts with incredible speed. The ants link themselves together into a living chain, allowing Mandible to grab Cox and pull him safely back to shore, saving his life. Moments later, everyone notices a massive waterfall ahead. The black ants quickly hide inside the sugar box as it drifts toward the edge. Right behind them, Butor, his red ants, and the pickerel fish are all swept over the waterfall. Water rushes into the soda can, causing it to sink into the riverbed, forcing the red ants to scramble out to save themselves. Furious, Buter watches as the black ants continue floating safely downstream inside their box. The pickerel fish aren't as lucky. After crashing down the waterfall, they become trapped and die. Eventually, the sugar tin slams into a large rock and breaks apart. Thankfully, the ants manage to recover every sugar cube before continuing their journey toward the colony. Cox follows closely behind them. Along the way, he spots another swarm of ladybugs and tries to fly over to them. But with only one working wing, he loses balance and crashes to the ground once again. Realizing he has nowhere else to go, Cox continues traveling with the ants. Meanwhile, Buter arrives at the spot where the sugar tin smashed into the rocks. After picking up the scent, he realizes the black ants have already taken the sugar cubes and continued on. Determined not to lose them, he starts tracking them once again. Night falls, and the black ants stop to rest beside their precious sugar cubes. But Cox and Mandible stay awake, standing guard to make sure no one steals their treasure. During the night, Mandible even tries teaching Cox how ants communicate and give directions using their antennae, but he just can't seem to figure it out. The next morning, the journey continues. By now, the red ants have almost caught up. Cox spots them first and quickly rushes over to warn Mandible. As the black ants hurry forward, they reach a road and begin crossing it. Suddenly, a car speeds by. The red ants panic and retreat, afraid they'll be crushed while crossing the road. Thanks to Mandible's quick thinking, every one of the black ants makes it across safely. After days of traveling, they finally arrive near their anthill. Cox reaches the colony with them, but hesitates to enter because he doesn't belong there. Seeing that he's alone, Mandible invites him to stay with the colony, and Cox happily accepts. The ants carry every sugar cube deep inside the anthill. Cox looks around in amazement as hundreds of ants work non-stop, bringing food and supplies from the forest and presenting them inside the royal chamber to their queen. The queen is the heart of the colony, laying all the eggs that ensure future generations of ants. Mandible proudly presents one of the sugar cubes to the queen ant. The queen absolutely loves the sweet treat, and the extra energy allows her to lay a huge number of eggs. At the same time, Buter finally reaches the black ant's territory. Furious that he failed to steal the sugar cubes, he decides to return to his own kingdom and gather his entire army. Back inside his nest, we see that the red ant's colony is completely different from the black ants. Everything operates under strict discipline, with every ant following orders without question. Buter returns to his queen and tells her everything. He explains that the black ants have discovered incredibly delicious sugar cubes that are helping their queen produce more eggs. Confident in the strength of their army, he insists that they attack immediately because the black ants have no chance of defeating them. The queen agrees without hesitation. She orders her entire army to march with Buter, destroy the black ant's kingdom, and bring every sugar cube back to her. The entire red ant army prepares for war. Armed with slingshots, sharp thorns, and every weapon they have, they begin their march toward the black ants' colony. The story then shifts back to the black ants. As night falls, they seal the entrance to their underground palace with a massive stone. Cox is sleeping alongside the other ants. While dreaming, he sees the female ladybug he met earlier. In his dream, they've started a family together and even have 3 little children. Everything feels peaceful and perfect. But suddenly, he wakes up. Cox climbs to the top of the hill and checks his injured wing. The broken wing has started growing back, but it's still much smaller than the other one, making it impossible for him to fly. From a distance, Mandible quietly watches him, wishing there were something he could do. The next morning, while the ants are still asleep, strange noises echo through the colony. They rush outside and are shocked to see the entire red ant army charging straight toward them. Within moments, the black ants are completely surrounded. The red ants launch a full-scale attack. Using slingshots, they bombard the ants' fortress with rocks, punching holes through its walls. They also fire sharpened toothpicks like arrows, making it look like a real medieval siege. Fortunately, none of the black ants suffer any serious injuries. The black ants quickly fight back. They begin dropping heavy objects onto the attackers below. Then they scatter aspirin tablets around the fortress. As water mixes with the tablets, thick foam forms all around the hill, creating a barrier that prevents the red ants from getting close. Meanwhile, Cox and Mandible come up with another plan. They head into the colony storage room, where a guard hands them a matchbox and several small fireworks. The ants carefully place the rockets on top of their fortress, but there's one problem. None of them knows how to light them. Mandible opens the matchbox and discovers there's only one matchstick left. On the back of the box, he notices simple instructions showing how to use it. He carefully strikes the match, lights one of the rockets, and sends it soaring into the sky. Seconds later, it crashes into the middle of the red ant army. The explosion wipes out several red ants at once, but after lighting the rocket, the only matchstick burns out. Now they have no way to launch the remaining fireworks. Enraged, Buter orders his soldiers to keep attacking. Some of them use a giant pine cone like a battering ram to smash through the colony's main entrance, while the slingshot assault continues without stopping. The black ants begin to fear they may not survive much longer. Just then, Cox stares at the empty matchbox and suddenly remembers something. There was another identical matchbox back at the abandoned picnic site. I can bring it back, he tells everyone, but I need a way to get out of here. Mandible immediately tells the ants to fold a paper airplane out of a small note. Cox climbs aboard, and together the ants launch it high into the air. The paper plane glides far beyond the battlefield. By now, Cox's injured wing has grown stronger. He starts flapping both wings, leaves the paper airplane behind, and continues flying on his own. The red ants try to stop him, but they're unable to catch him. Cox flies across forests and valleys for hours until he finally reaches the abandoned picnic site. The matchbox is still lying exactly where he remembered. He grabs it and tries to fly away, but his smaller wing still isn't strong enough to lift both him and the heavy box. At that moment, a spider suddenly appears. Cox quickly hides. Without noticing him, the spider picks up the matchbox and carries it away. Cox quietly follows behind as the spider crawls through a large drainage pipe and eventually reaches a muddy area where it has turned an old dollhouse into its home. The spider carries the matchbox into its home. For a moment, it feels like someone is watching, but Cox stays perfectly hidden. Seeing nothing suspicious, the spider heads inside with the matchbox. A few moments later, Cox quietly flies to the dollhouse and carefully sneaks inside. As he climbs the stairs, he notices the spider weaving a web using the matchsticks themselves. Suddenly, a frog lurking outside shoots out its long tongue and grabs Cox, trying to swallow him whole. The spider sees everything happen. Desperate to survive, Cox grabs onto a nearby window frame with all his strength. The struggle causes the entire dollhouse to collapse onto the frog, crushing it beneath the wreckage. The frog is finally defeated, but Cox is knocked unconscious once again. While he's out cold, Cox dreams about the ladybug he loves. In the dream, they're raising a happy family together, and he's teaching their little children how to fly. When he finally wakes up, he finds himself lying on a tiny bed while the spider quietly plays music beside him. Grateful that Cox accidentally saved her from the frog that had terrorized her for so long, the spider offers him a grape to eat. Cox drinks the juice, quickly getting his strength back. He walks over to the matchbox and tells the spider, "I need this. My friends are in danger, and I have to help them." Understanding the situation, the spider willingly carries the matchbox outside for him. By now, Cox's wings have fully healed. He easily lifts the matchbox and flies away. After leaving the sewer, Cox heads back toward the black ants colony. Along the way, he spots a swarm of flies harassing the same female ladybug he fell in love with. She has become separated from her family and is completely surrounded. Without hesitation, Cox drops the matchbox and rushes over to help. He taunts the flies, shouting, "If you've got the guts, come catch me!" Then he lets out a little fart, instantly making the flies furious. The entire swarm chases after him. Cox leads them straight toward a busy road. At the last second, he dodges an oncoming car, but the flies aren't fast enough. They slam into the vehicle and are left badly injured. Cox laughs at them before flying back to the ladybug. The two finally share a kiss, realizing they truly care about each other. Cox promises, "I'll come back soon, but first I have to help my friends." The ladybug tries to follow him, but Cox picks up the matchbox and gently tells her, "It's too dangerous. Stay here." Then he flies off toward the battlefield. Back at the black ants colony, the war is still raging. The fortress has been heavily damaged and is on the verge of collapsing. Mandible continues hoping that Cox will somehow return. Then suddenly, he hears Cox's voice. Everyone looks up in excitement as Cox arrives carrying the matchbox. Landing beside Mandible, he says, "I brought plenty of matchsticks. Now it's time to teach Buter and his army a lesson." Mandible and the other ants immediately begin lighting every remaining firework. One after another, rockets blast into the sky before crashing down across the red ant army. Explosions erupt everywhere, wiping out wave after wave of attackers. The terrified red ants finally lose their nerve and retreat. Flames quickly spread across the battlefield, forcing Buter to watch helplessly as his entire army runs away. Realizing the battle is lost, he has no choice but to retreat as well. Soon, the fire spreads into the surrounding forest. Just in time, a firefighting plane arrives overhead and drops huge amounts of water, putting out the blaze. Although the ants survive, their entire home is reduced to ruins. Watching their colony destroyed leaves the black ants heartbroken, and Cox is just as devastated. A few days later, life finally begins to return to normal. Cox is now living happily with the ladybug he loves, and together they've started a family with 5 adorable children. Just like his parents once did, Cox proudly teaches them how to fly. Meanwhile, the black ants begin rebuilding their colony from the ground up. Cox stops by to visit Mandible, and the two friends stand side by side, watching their new home slowly come back to life.